I'm speaking to Brynn Andrew. He's ECN's Chief Technology Officer. Brynn, we're seeing a shift in the nature of telecoms. If we look, for instance, at the adoption of Internet Protocol, what are the implications of this for the telecoms industry?
At the moment, the telecoms industry is moving away from its traditional model of TDM circuit-switched voice to provide more voice and data-like services. Underlying this is the entire way in which the infrastructure of the networks are changing. Instead of having the TDM switched circuits, you now have IP-based circuits that allow people to move not only voice but data as well. This means that people are not wedded to a single network for one service, but means rather that they're able to apply to a number of different networks for different services that they may require.
Again, we're seeing this notion of convergence that we're seeing in all other aspects of technology.
The Internet Protocol allows people to move data. This data can take any form you like, and the way that we're able to use computers nowadays to process voice means that we are at a stage where we can move voice reliably over these data networks. So in addition to all the data services that people are used to and new services that are getting built on that, we are now able to reliably offer voice as a service across these IP flexible networks, which are far cheaper and far more effective and optimal to the usual TDM circuits that we see.
You're contrasting the use of the old or the more analog networks with the newer version. What other differences are there?
The main difference is the services that you're able to put on the network. With the TDM network, it's designed for one thing. It really is designed only for voice, and this is the way in which all telecommunications has been for the last 50 to 100 years. Nowadays, well, over the last 50 years coming up, we've been using these telecommunications network to push data across it. But the impact for the consumer is that the services that you're able to get are limited not by the network, but by the people that are providing those services, the computers that are getting used to build those services, and people's imaginations, really.
If we look at the consumer, one probably has two types of consumer, the one that's perhaps not accustomed to the new technology. Is there an element of consumer education there?
There very much is at the moment. People hear voice of IP and they immediately think of the Skype handset and phoning their friends overseas every now and then. Voice of IP is just another protocol, much in the same way that people don't really know about the keying mechanisms that are used in order to get data across or to get voice across a circuit, a TDM circuit. Voice of IP is just another protocol that has loomed into the public view and people disparage because they've had bad experiences using Skype. The point is that it doesn't matter what the plumbing is. If your plumber's done it correctly, then you're going to get a good service out of it.
And Brynn, one probably also has another class of consumer who's grown up with technology, who expects a great deal from this technology.
Absolutely. I mean, if you think of people, young adults, teenagers using their cell phones, they don't use their cell phones to talk on them necessarily. They use applications like Mixit or instant messengers or other things that they've very much grown accustomed to and want to have as a service with their telecommunication partner, as it were. So these are people who are extremely demanding about the services that they want from their providers. They don't just want telephony or being able to download. They want to be able to download things very fast, interact on their Facebook and social networking sites very quickly. And these are the kinds of people that we employ in order to provide the services that we know are going to be in demand in the next 5 to 10 years.
Now, if you look at your consumers, your target market is the business sector. How do you deploy all of this technology to meet your customers' needs?
The deployment of the technology is relatively straightforward in that we don't impact our corporate customers' business. We don't impact them in terms of the kit that we deploy. So we try and change the way that they're using their telephone as little as possible, because obviously they're wanting to use a telephone service. They expect that every time they pick up the phone, there's a dial tone. Instead, what we're doing is we're centralizing a number of services that currently are deployed at distributed sites. For example, you have a company that has a number of branches. What they need to do is they need to make telephone calls across those branches. Instead, what they traditionally would have done is deployed PABXs at each site and potentially a centralized PABX that allows them to then phone out over the incumbent infrastructure to get telephone calls to those sites. What we're able to do is, if we've connected them all to our network, we centrally deploy or cut a version of a PABX, allowing them to centrally manage their telephone systems. These are the kinds of things that we know that people want, and it provides them in this current climate of economic crisis with a much better way of dealing with their voice and paying for their services.
So you refer to PABXs. What other applications are available to your business customers?
Business customers today can expect a variety of things, including voice and video conferencing, very useful for not flying people to Cape Town or overseas. The centralized PABX, the telephone management system that we provide, allowing them to see what their telephone bill is actually doing. Interestingly enough, most businesses will have as a second cost their telephone infrastructure, which they don't even think about. They don't even wonder whether or not this is a useful thing. They know that it's a business tool, so they have to pay for it. And there are a number of companies that have who make a lot of money by making sure that these services are optimized, making sure they don't have more lines than they require. We provide this as an in-business service. The telephone management system that we have allows them to see what they're doing on their lines.
Brynn, the timing of all of this, are you at this stage already able to harness the technology to its full potential?
I'd say it's still in terms of getting everything that we require out of it, is still a little bit away, mainly because of the bandwidth restrictions that we still have in South Africa, in that you don't have these enormous pipes that European countries, the States have. We still are restricted quite a lot to our metropolitan areas, in that there now are fibre rings going around Johannesburg, Gauteng, Cape Town and Durban. But in terms of cross-country connectivity, there are still businesses that operate in all the metropolitan centres, so they need to have fast access to one another. And this is still something that is limiting the growth to an extent of our business.
Brynn, thanks very much.
Sure, thank you.
Brynn Andrew is ECN's Chief Technology Officer.